Welcome to the Same Day Podcast, where we discuss driving incremental business growth and other topics related to real estate, property management, and entrepreneurship. Now to the show at hand.
Matt Zalk here. I'm the host of the Same Day Podcast, where I connect with top business experts and real estate leaders. Past guests include Devin Howland talking about economic development in Fayetteville, Arkansas. We also had Elliot Nelson on the show from McNally's Group discussing community development through restaurants and bars in Oklahoma City and Tulsa. Today's episode is brought to you by Chris Lyle State Farm. Chris Lyle State Farm helps you protect your most precious assets and investments, whether it's your home and auto, investment rental properties, or other valuables. Call Chris Lyle State Farm for a quick and painless phone call to potentially save double digits on all of your insurance needs. Call his office at 918-878-7771 or visit diallyle.com. That's diallile.com. Today's episode is also brought to you by Keyrenter Property Management. At Keyrenter Property Management, we are a full-service property management company helping our clients buy, renovate, and operate real estate assets. We help our clients build wealth while taking the headache out of property management. And that's why no matter what rental you have, single-family homes, condos, townhomes, we have the management solutions you need. Go to KeyrenterPMC.com. Curtis Kupfersmith first got his real estate license in 2013. In 2017, he founded a real estate firm that sold over 200 properties per year for 3 years in a row and employed 10 plus people. In 2020, Curtis sold that company. Since then, he's been a real estate consultant, hosts a mastermind group, and puts on the Oklahoma Real Estate Conference that hosts over 600 Oklahoma real estate professionals annually. Curtis Kupfersmith, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, man? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And good to have Walter on the show too. Want to start with a little bit of background. Tell us how you got started, where you've come from, and where you are now.
So I was born and raised in Wichita, Kansas, and then I actually used to rodeo professionally. So I lived in Texas for a while, and then I got in a really bad car wreck when I was 19, and I couldn't rodeo or anything anymore after that. And so I ended up moving to Oklahoma City and really didn't think I would like it. I thought I wouldn't be here for very long, but I fell in love with it. And I owned a house in Texas that I bought just kind of on a fluke deal. It was in 2009. A lady that I worked with had went through a divorce, and I was only 19. And she was kind of, crying in the office about how she didn't want this house. And, if somebody would just pay off the mortgage, she'd give it away. And I said, well, how much do you owe on it? She said, I owe $42,000. And it was 4 acres with a mobile home. It was a 2-bed, 2-bath mobile home. Had a barn, and it was fenced, and I still had horses at the time. So it was like perfect for me, but I had no idea how to buy a house, and I didn't have money. So I went around to every little bank in town in Decatur, Texas, just begging for money. And this man who was the president of this little bank, he said, look, we can't give you a loan through the bank, but I will give you a personal loan on this. You move your deposits, like your checking account and stuff here, and I'll just withhold it from your check every 2 weeks. And I was like, okay, deal. So I bought this place, and my payment was $264 a month. And I just thought, oh, I got a cheap, good place to live now. And then I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And so when I moved to Oklahoma, I decided to just rent this place out because I thought I'd be moving back to Texas. I didn't think I'd like Oklahoma. So I rented it out for $1,000 a month. Like, oh, wow, I see why people like this rental property thing. I mean, just thinking that was normal to make $800 a month in profit. So that's kind of how I got started with real estate.
Real quick. I'm sure the irony is not lost on you that you were a rodeo guy and you got injured not on the back of an animal or running away from an animal, but rather in a car, which is insane. Most rodeo folks are like, I can't rodeo anymore because I flew off a Bronco or I was bull riding and cracked my neck. But you got hit by a car. You were in a car accident.
Yeah.
That's crazy. First. Number two,
Yeah.
a good point. the worst time to be developing relationships with bankers is when you need money, right? Which you learned. What's your strategy for developing relationships with bankers now that you have that experience under your belt?
I mean, I think a lot of it is just having good relationships, and it takes a while. I mean, but what I have found is the best thing to do is when you find one banker who is good, that you have a good relationship with, keep that good relationship with them, but always never shut off talking to other banks,
Yeah.
because banks change what they want to lend on all the time. And they may be giving you these certain terms on, $100,000 and under properties. And then one day you wake up and they say, yeah, we're not lending on those anymore.
That bucket fills and they got to do industrial, or they've got to go to asset-backed financing or whatever it is. Interesting.
Yep.
Okay, so you hit the dream by finding an $800 a month cash flowing property. You stay in Oklahoma. I think the little known secret about Oklahoma is that it's not that different from Texas. It's like, for all my
the people are
like, what's it like? What's it like? I'm like, it's pretty simple. I grew up in Houston. It's Tulsa and Houston are not that dissimilar except for size, but culturally they're very similar.
Yeah, I think the people are nicer. I mean, that's the one thing. Everybody that moves to Oklahoma is always like, gosh, the people are just so nice here. And I mean, they really are for the most part.
I think because you're not dealing with an hour of traffic. I mean, going from one place in Houston to another, you've got to go through an hour of traffic, and nothing boils your blood like an hour of traffic.
I know. Yeah, it's tough. So I had that place, and up here I was working for a construction company, and I loved it. I loved the people I worked with. We did oil and gas construction, and we also did big commercial dirt work. Like we did the dirt work for the Amazon facility here, like huge projects, and I loved it. But I was hanging out with a group of friends one night. There was a guy there that we were talking, whatever. And I asked him what he did, and he said he sold real estate. And I was like, what? Like, how do you do that? Blah, blah, blah. And so I signed up to start the real estate license class that night. And I honestly forgot about it. And I ran into him about a month later, and he was like, hey, did you do that course? And I was like, what do you mean? I'm not in school. And he was like, the real estate school.
You telling a story about like drunk shopping?
Yeah, literally.
I went from the bar and I bought myself something, but I can't remember. And when it showed up, I was surprised.
Yep. Yeah. So I went ahead and I went through that, but I didn't really know him. I didn't know anybody who was a realtor. I just got it because I thought, well, I have a rental property. This may help me get more rental properties. And then one day I was at a gas station and I ran into a guy who I used to actually teach roping lessons to when I lived in Texas. And I knew he had money and I knew he did well. And so we're talking at the gas station. I said, what do you do for a living up here? And he said, oh, I sell real estate. I said, no crap. I said, I have my license, but I don't know what to do with it. And he said, man, I'll tell you what, you need to join Keller Williams. It will change your life. Wow. And I did, and he was right. There is literally nothing, no one decision I ever made that changed my life more than joining Keller Williams. They are, and I mean, I haven't been a part of Keller Williams for a long time, but back then, they were the big dogs here. I mean, it was like they had over 50% market share. All the big producers were there. And they really taught me how to fish. Instead of, giving me fish, they taught me how to fish. Yeah. And I remember when I met with the broker there, she said, what's your goals? And I said, well, my goal is to quit my job within 5 years. And she kind of laughed at me and said, it will not take you 5 years to quit your job. And I said, yeah, but I love them and I love my job. And she was like, okay, whatever. Well, within about 4 months, I had sold more than I had made in my salary. And so I was working all the time. And it got to a point where my boss, who was also one of my really good friends, he just came to me and said, look, dude, you need to quit or I'm going to fire you because you can't keep doing this. Like, you're going crazy. So I quit and just never really looked back. And, I started just selling regular real estate.
How are you sourcing
But
for clients? How are you sourcing new clients in those early days?
so when I started, I was just selling regular real estate, just personal properties. And I did an open house every Sunday for 3 years, every Sunday. So that's how I started getting clients. And then the other thing and I still tell people this today, is the best thing I ever did was I had a lady tell me that if you can get 25 advocates, you will never have to lead generate for business ever again.
Wow.
And what advocates are, these are people who you are helping them get business and they help you get business. These are like influential type people of some type that, you have their back, they have yours. And so that's what I did. And I would literally find business owners and then I would help them get business. That would be my like lead generation, was just connecting people, which I feel like that's kind of my superpower. Is I'm a really good connector.
Yeah.
And so what would happen is I would help them get business and then they would just fight to get me business.
Sure.
So between doing open houses, those referrals, and then I got into direct mail. And direct mail was big. I farmed neighborhoods. And then when we got into the investment side, sent thousands of letters every month. And I can kind of get into what we sent there too. But that's how I sourced deals.
What was your conversion rate typically on mailers? If you sent 10,000 mailers, how many clients would you expect to come out of those?
So it depends whether you're going after retail business as a realtor, or whether you're going after deals. When I was farming neighborhoods as a realtor, my conversion rate was way higher. In the beginning, it was slow. But the key with direct mail, especially if you're farming a neighborhood, is they have to just keep hearing from you and keep hearing from you. So I would send everyone, I had 2 different neighborhoods I farmed, and they would get a quarterly market update. And then they would also get, and those were letters. Like I would type it out and then I would handwrite everyone's names on those letters. And then every time I sold a house in there, they would get a postcard that said just sold. And it would have the picture of the house on it, and then my information, what it sold for, et cetera. And then if you want information on what your house is worth, go here. But on sending direct mail for deals, it was anywhere between 1.5% to 4% is what we would get.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, I mean, it really depended, but we would hit, we would figure out our list at the beginning of the year. We would hit each list at least 3 times. So we'd, every other month is what we would hit. And then we'd keep mailing them until they either told us to F off or, we got them.
Yeah. How long were you selling real estate before I guess, are you still selling real estate, or have you transitioned full-time into coaching and the real estate conferences?
Yeah, I don't have my license anymore. I still do some deals, but I don't even have my license anymore. So
Wow.
I'm completely out of selling.
So let's talk about what you transitioned to when you got out of selling and what that transition was like.
So, well, I'll back up a little bit because I sold regular real estate for a while, but then I started an investment firm in late 2016. And what we did was we sold cash flowing properties to out-of-state investors. And it started out as just being like a little side thing.
Mhm.
And it grew really fast just because, kind of going back to what I was saying earlier, we got a few key relationships that were sending us a lot of referrals. And that business grew very quickly, and it went from just selling cash flowing properties to property management. We built duplex neighborhoods. We did construction, had like all of the maintenance guys, handymen, doing all that stuff. that company, I ended up selling that company at the beginning of 2020 and was supposed to stay on for 2 years in that company to keep running all the sales. But my business partner who I sold it to did not, it's a long story, but basically didn't like the way that all of the employees still kind of viewed me as the boss. And so that turned into a 1.5 year lawsuit that was really not fun to go through, but it ended up settling, and I was happy with it, but it was very, very difficult for a while.
For those people that view lawsuits or threaten lawsuits all the time. Oh, I'm going to take you to court, or oh, I'm going to have my attorney send you things. What are the key lessons? What did you learn from being in a lawsuit for 1.5 years?
They're horrible, and even though I won, I would not wish them on my worst enemy. And every time that I hear somebody say, "Oh, I'm just going to sue them," I'm like, you have no freaking clue what you are signing up for, because it is an emotional and mental battle like you will never understand until you go through it. And I knew all along I was going to win. I mean, everything was stacked in my favor. The second we filed the lawsuit, they came back and said, "We are not going to fight this. We're going to settle it." But it's grueling. You're paying attorneys so much money. There's nothing fun about it. So my best advice to everyone when it comes to lawsuits is do everything you can to not get into a lawsuit, because the only people who win are the attorneys in a lawsuit.
Yeah.
They're horrible.
When you made that leap from being at Keller Williams to opening up your own firm, I mean, the realtor lifestyle is certainly one of entrepreneurship, hustle, muscle, and grit and other stuff. But what did you learn about entrepreneurship as you transitioned into like a full-time, this is my business, I got to keep the lights on and pay salaries?
Yeah, and I mean, it didn't really change a whole lot, because the beauty of KW is they want you running it as your own business. And I mean, you're an independent contractor, so it is your own business anyways. And we had already had our own office. We were already paying all of our own staff. The only thing that really changed was a lot of our back end systems that KW had for us, as well as like just the liability is if something goes wrong. When you're with a big name and have a broker working with you, when things go wrong, you can turn it over to them and walk away. When you're on your own, you're taking on all of that. Yeah. But I think that especially in Oklahoma City, we have more independent brokerages here than most big, like really big cities. I can't remember the numbers, but I saw it last year. The amount of independent brokerages here is just through the freaking roof. Everyone and their dog wants to start an independent brokerage here, and there is no money to be made in having a brokerage. There's just not. It is a very hard way to make a living. And we didn't start ours as a way to like recruit agents and do that. It was just out of necessity to do property management. Yeah. So, but man, I can't even imagine how bad it would. You're just a freaking realtor babysitter when you run an independent brokerage. It's all you are. So
speaking of property management, which is our core focus and what we do every single day, talk to us about the pain, the trials and tribulations of some of the best and worst experiences.
Dude, I tell people all the time that property management is, when it comes to ways to make money in real estate, you're going to work harder for less money doing property management than anything else. And it always makes me laugh when realtors are like, "Yeah, I have some investor clients. I think I'm going to start doing property management too on the side." And I'm like, okay, good luck.
Don't do it.
Have fun, because it is not fun.
You prepare for everybody to hate you. Your tenants hate you. Your vendors hate you. Your owners hate you. Yeah, true.
I think the hardest part about property management is, and I remember before we started it, I mean, we were already selling over 200 houses a year. We were making a lot in referral fees from referring to all the property management companies we were already sending out. And when we looked at the numbers, we were like, holy crap, we're going to make less doing the property management ourselves than we're making sending these out and getting the referral fees from the property managers.
Yeah.
Because there's this like break even point in property management, especially when you start, that you need help right from the get go, even if you only have like 20 to 50 properties, but you can't afford them. And so you have to do all the work yourself until you get to a certain number of properties. And then once you hire that next person, you have to rush to get more properties to be able to afford that salary. And then you're in this constant flow of like, all right, I need more help, but I got to get more properties to be able to afford it. And that's the part that I think a lot of people don't realize is they're like, oh, well, I can just hire a property manager to help run this. It's like, okay, well, you're going to have to pay them a lot to be able to keep them around.
Them and just keep them going all the time. The challenge also at a certain point. So I think there's a point at which you reach scale and you've got enough people in the organization. Of course, you by that point have a lot of properties under management. But then when somebody goes on maternity leave or somebody wants to take vacation for 2 weeks or do whatever else, you've got to have the redundancy to take over those properties. And if somebody's managing 150 properties or something, you can't just dump that on the next person. Now they're managing 300 properties for a month or two or 2 weeks for vacation. You've got to be able to split them up. So you either have to have, you have to have like, I call it accordion-like capacity so that a bunch of people can take on can scale a little bit more and then flex back down when the person comes back. But it becomes, cross-training becomes an issue. And then just pure capacity, especially if somebody's taking vacation or whatever in summer, when you're doing peak leasing stuff, it can be really hard.
Yes, very difficult. Yeah. So, I mean, I didn't want to do property management. I mean, it was my business partner wanted to, and it really only happened because a lot of our clients who we were referring to other property managers weren't happy and kept asking us to do it. And so that's really the only reason we ended up doing it. And, it's a tough way. I commend you and others that are just doing property management because it is a tough way to make a living for a while. I mean, once you get it built, you get your systems, everything in place, it can work really well, but it's a very tough way to get started in real estate.
Yeah, for sure. Any particular worst memories of property management that you care to share or recount?
Oh, oh gosh.
You ever get to the point of getting sued?
Oh yeah. I mean, quite a few times. And would run into it a lot, just in selling cash flowing properties, because especially in selling them, it's like most companies that sell cash flowing properties are turnkey companies. They're going in, they're buying the house, they're fixing it up, then they're selling it. And our thought was we would rather pass on this cash flow to you because if we were to buy it, fix it up, the cash flow is way less.
Yeah.
Whereas if we can sell it when it's not in the best shape, you can decide if you want to fix it up or if you want to just leave it the way it is. And, we still did inspections, we still did all that stuff. And we would get people all the time that a lot of it is just uneducated buyers, especially investors. And that was a lot of the issues with selling them and with managing them. They listen to all these podcasts and all this shit that think, oh, well, I'm just going to buy a couple rental houses and I'm going to retire. And it's like, no, you have one thing go wrong and
Yeah.
it eats up the entire year of profit.
Yeah.
Rental properties are a long-term retirement account. That's what they are. And people cannot get it. You can tell them that over and over and over again. But as soon as they see their statement that they're losing money that month, they go absolutely ballistic.
Yeah.
Not all, but a lot of them do.
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah.
So true.
We had a.
They hear too many
Go
people
ahead.
talk about the $800 a month cash flow, then they're going to start believing it. I'll get 10 of them and I can replace my income and be done.
Yeah.
But
Since that day, that was in 2010 or 11, I've seen maybe 2 ever that cash flowed like that on a single family house. They don't happen. Doesn't happen.
bought one years ago in Boulder, Colorado, where my sister lives. I think we paid $465, which at the time I was like, that's an insane amount of money. Probably worth $1 million now. I think our mortgage is like $2,500, $2,300 a month, and we get $4,700 a month in rent, or $4,750. That's a pretty good one.
Wow.
The truth is, if you actually look at that return for the equity that we've got in the property, right? We put down 25%, I'm sure 20% of 465 is 80 grand. We put in another 80 to renovate it. So I'm in 160. And if you consider that it's worth, let's call it, I paid 465, let's call it worth $800,000. I've got $500,000 in the property in cash, in equity. So if I were to sell that and put money somewhere else, take $500,000-$600,000 out and get 10% a year, I'd be getting $60,000, $50,000 a year free cash flow. So free cash flow of $2,500 a month is, $30,000 a year is not actually that good. It's a 5% return on my equity. It's not that great. So
Yeah.
in reality, it sounds like a lot of money, but for the amount of cash that I'm in this, or equity that I'm in this, it's really not as sweet as some of my Tulsa.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, depends how you look at it.
Yep.
So you transition. So you sell the business 2020. You spend a year and a half in legal drama battles. And how did you transition then to your next phase?
So when all of that happened, I had a non-compete, and so she wasn't paying for our buyout agreement. I wasn't getting paid, and so I thought, well, shoot, I can just go back to selling real estate. But when I got my attorney, he was like, look, man, if this actually does go to trial, you need to show that you stuck to every letter of this agreement. And so I know it sucks, but don't go back to selling real estate, find other things to do. So I started doing deals in other markets. I tried in Bentonville, Arkansas, and I did a couple deals there, but then I started doing deals in Lawton. And mainly what I was doing in Lawton was finding deals for a couple of people. They were paying me to do their direct mail and negotiate their deals. And then I was also getting a cut on each deal they did. And then I bought some myself too. I would wholesale deals. I'd just buy them, turn around and list them on the MLS and sell them that way. So I was doing that, and that was really supplementing my income. But then in 2020, I made a post and was just like, hey, I've always had people reach out and ask me for help, but I have time now. So if anybody would want one-on-one help, either investing or getting more business as a realtor, I'd be happy to help. And I didn't really know what to expect, but I got quite a few people that reached out. And so that started this kind of little side hustle thing, is what it was in the beginning, of just, kind of coaching people one-on-one. And what happened was, as it went into 2021, I kept talking to more realtors, and people were just really lonely, honestly, is what it was. Offices weren't doing office meetings anymore. There weren't really meetups or any stuff like that. And in the real estate world in general, especially with realtors, there is this big divide where brokerages will do conferences, events, masterminds, but nobody outside of that brokerage goes because they're scared they're going to get recruited. And so there's really no cohesiveness in real estate. It's like, as a realtor, you have to be cooperative when you're doing deals with other realtors, but you really don't talk about anything other than how you're doing the deal.
Yeah.
So I had this idea that I was like, look, I get to talk to all these realtors one on one. I hear what they're doing, what's working, what's not working. But all of these other realtors don't get to hear any of this stuff. Like, and I'm not even selling real estate. So, like, how can I make this to where everybody can hear this? So I decided to start just like an online Facebook group at the time, is all it was, where the thing was, you join them. If you join, it's $50 a month. And we do a new Facebook video every Wednesday where I interview somebody else. And the point of you joining, and part of the agreement, is you have to be willing to share everything that you're doing. If we ask you to share it, you have to be willing to share it.
Wow.
So if you are good at investing, you have to share how you're getting deals. What does your letters look like? What, if you're running ads, what do your ads look like? If you're cold calling, what are your scripts? Who are you calling? When are you calling? And so that was the premise of it. And it started out just online and then moved to doing in-person masterminds. And the first in-person mastermind I did I think I had 16 people at it. That was it. And from that,
Wow, to me.
yeah. Well, I mean, it was great, especially for the beginning. But from that, I had this idea where I would do, like, it wasn't going to be a conference at the time. It was just, my goal was to have 70 people there. I got a little venue that would fit 70 people. I had 30 some people from my group who were going to be there. So the premise was, I'm going to bring in people who are experts on all these different topics in our market. They're not people from out of state, they're people from Oklahoma City, and they're going to share what they do and what's working on each topic. So I had 40 more spots left. I made a post last year and just said, hey, I'm going to do this event. I've got 40 spots left. If anybody would want to come, here's the link to buy tickets. And I had over 200 comments on that post, and they sold out immediately. And I was like, oh shit, I got to get a bigger venue.
Yeah.
So I did. I got a bigger venue last year, and we sold out over 300 people.
Wow.
Just really quickly. I mean, I had to throw it together within like a month and a half. And so I realized, like, oh crap, like there is a market for this in OKC. And so we did it again this year, and we had around 650 people were there this year.
Wow. And what topics are
Yeah.
What do you?
We have everything from just for realtors. I mean, we have an investing panel where I had Nathan and Scarlett Cow, they're big developers. They do a lot of development. I had Jimmy Green, who they own around 90 properties, Airbnbs and single family. They flip a lot. His wife is Bree Green. She sells 150 houses a year. And then another guy named Eli Davis, he owns one of the biggest property management companies here in OKC. And then he's also a huge developer. He's developing 2 full city blocks in Tulsa right now. He's done a couple of the golf courses here. So, like, just on that panel, we talked about like the basics of how do you find a deal and what does a deal look like right now, all the way up to this is how you get in developing, this is how you find the money, blah, blah, blah. We also had balancing parenthood and real estate. We had OREC and the OKC Planning Committee did a panel where they talked about new zoning and permits and stuff like that for the year. I'm looking at it right now. We had a vendor panel where it was just different. We had a roofer, the president of Chicago Title, a home builder, and an insurance agent, and they just talked about things from their perspectives. of like what's going on that people need to know in their industries. We did a listings panel, a systems panel. Uh, and then I had a guy named Cody Hardridge. He's one of the biggest mortgage lenders here with Cornerstone Home Lending. He spoke as well. So next year we're still going to have topics like that, but we're also going to do breakout rooms where we'll have 3 different time slots throughout the day where you can go pick between 3 different topics so that you can really pick which thing you really want to learn about. So that's kind of the plan for next year. But next year will be the Oklahoma Real Estate Conference instead of just OKC, because we have a lot of people from Tulsa and Northwest Oklahoma and, kind of all over coming now. So I want it to be for all of Oklahoma, not just OKC.
On your one-on-one coaching sessions, what are some common challenges that you see among real estate professionals?
So I've got wholesalers, investors, and realtors. It's about, I'd say it's about 60% realtors. The rest are other stuff. Man, the main thing right now is just, getting business. Yep. But what I have noticed is a lot of my clients are already pretty big producers. And so a lot of our conversations are more about like either hiring and firing, systems. And then the main thing is just, it doesn't matter if you're brand new or you've been a big producer for years. The main thing people struggle with is consistently doing the right things every day. And I tell people all the time that success is boring and it sucks, but that is what it actually looks like. Like when you are really doing the work and you're really like, you're flowing in a good flow state, your day should be very repetitive and look pretty boring to the outside person. It's not all these flashy, fancy things. Right. And that's the hardest thing for people to get over and deal with, is just consistently doing it.
You can imagine somebody that does 2 or 3 deals early on in their career, maybe 12 months in, they do 3, 4 deals, and they've got a $20,000 a month. It can cause you to want to rest on your laurels.
Yeah.
Right? Successes.
Yep.
And take a little bit of a breather if you've been running and gunning for 12 months or 18 months or whatever.
Yeah. And it's like the roller coaster of real estate. And I mean, 90% of realtors deal with it. The top 10% do not, because they know what they do to get business and they do those things consistently every single week. But the rest of everybody else, I get a couple contracts. I spend all my time, managing those and doing all that. So I'm going up on the roller coaster. Those deals close. I fall down the roller coaster. I have no business. I'm freaking out. And they have to build it back up and then they stop working again. Yeah. And it's just a matter of getting people to realize that, like, if you will do the same things day in and day out, whether you only want to sell 20 deals a year or you want to sell 200, you can consistently do that if you'll just do the same things every day.
Yeah. What are you seeing trend-wise in terms of the real estate market where some of our investors could be capitalizing on?
Man, I think the biggest thing right now is new construction is just through the roof. I mean, there's so much new construction and it's not slowing down anytime soon. I mean, these builders pull permits more than a year in advance. So, I mean, they're building on the permits they pulled in 2021, 2022. They're not slowing down. Like if they decide to slow down, it's going to slow down in like 2024, 2025. So what I am seeing is sellers are getting more realistic. Not all of them, but some of them. Clients that are going after deals are, the deal flow is picked up because a lot of these wholesalers who it was easy to find deals, And it was easy to sell them for a lot of money because they were selling to institutions, they were selling to brand new investors who were buying left and right. A lot of those big investors and especially institutions, a lot of the big institutions aren't buying
Right.
I mean, most of the people I know that like all they were doing was wholesaling to institutions, they haven't sold one to an institution in over a year. And so what I think that's doing is it's made the wholesaler, a lot of the wholesalers fall off because they can't afford the market. That's the thing that most people don't realize until you start doing it. It costs so much money to go after deals off market. And so they can't afford the marketing anymore. So there are more deals for the people who are going after them. And then for you somebody who's wanting to be an investor and buy them as rental properties, I think the main thing you have to know is nearly impossible to get good cash flow at 8-9% interest rate. It's just not going to happen. I mean, even back in the day where 1% deals were everywhere in OKC and Tulsa, if you cash flowed $200 a month, that was a great deal. I mean, I bought them all day long at $200 cash flow. Those deals you're not finding those anymore. And so you have to view owning rental properties as a retirement account. If you can view it as a retirement account, you will not get upset when you're not cash flow positive. You won't get upset when there's a major repair, because long term, somebody else is paying off your house, you're gaining equity, and you're gaining appreciation. And if you were just funding a retirement account, you would be paying to your 401k, IRA, whatever you're doing, $300 or $400 a month.
Yeah.
So if it's costing you a couple $100 a month to have this rental property, you're still coming out positive compared to a 401k, IRA, whatever you want to talk about.
Great perspective. Where do people reach you, Curtis, if they want to find out more about one-on-one coaching or if they want to get involved in that?
My Instagram or my Facebook is the best place. My last name's spelled weird, but my first name's Curtis, Curtis, and then my last name is Kupfer Smith. That's the best way. Either one of those, I'm on there. You'll find me.
Okay. Curtis Kupfersmith first got his start in real estate. He got his license in 2013. In 2017, he founded a real estate investment firm that sold over 200 properties per year for 3 years in a row and employed 10 plus people. In 2022, Curtis sold that company. Since then, he's been a real estate consultant, hosts a mastermind group, and puts on the Oklahoma Real Estate Conference that over 600 Oklahoma real estate professionals attend annually. Curtis, we appreciate you being on the show. This was awesome.
Hey, dude, thank you for having me, Matt. Appreciate you.
Thanks for listening to the Same Day Podcast. Tune in to a new show each week and be sure to subscribe to get future episodes.